The alien girl at his door, Ethan was just trying to survive another cold night on the edge of New Mars colony, where storms howled like hungry beasts, and dust clouds made the air feel like sandpaper against the skin. He lived alone in a small outpost far from the central dome where most humans stayed. Warm and safe, his life was quiet and simple ever since he left the military and chose to disappear from the noise of war. But that night something changed. Something strange happened. The wind was heavy and the sky flashed with green lightning. Ethan sat by the heater, sipping recycled coffee when he heard a soft thump at his door, then another, a scratching sound like claws. Or maybe fingers, desperate, weak, afraid. He stood up slowly, took his old plasma pistol just in case, and opened the door, and there she was, an alien girl, collapsed on the ground, her body shivering, her skin pale with soft, glowing veins like bioluminescent rivers flowing under fragile glass. She looked up at him with wide silver eyes full of panic and pain. She tried to speak, but her lips only moved without sound. Ethan had seen many aliens before, but never one like her. She was humanoid, but not quite. Her ears were long and slightly curved. Her hair looked like strands of shimmering metal, and her breathing was uneven, like she was running from death itself. She whispered one word, "Please." Ethan made his decision. Without thinking, he pulled her inside, gently laid her on the floor, and wrapped her in a thermal blanket. He checked her pulse, fast but steady, then gave her warm water, which she drank quickly with both hands shaking. She tried to sit up and speak again. This time the words came clearer. "My name is Kara. Please don't send me back." He asked back, "Where to? Who's chasing you?" She looked away, her body still trembling, but her eyes burned with something deeper, fear mixed with shame, and something else that he couldn't name. She said, "I escaped. They will come for me, but not tonight. Not if I hide here, please." Ethan wanted to ask more questions, but he saw her wounds, light bruises, a small burn mark on her wrist, and what looked like a tracking implant scar near her neck. She had been through something terrible, and it wasn't the time for it. Interrogation. He told her, "You're safe here for now. Rest, I'll keep watch." Kiara curled up in the blanket like a frightened animal, her eyes watching every shadow in the room, but soon she fell asleep, breathing slowly and deeply. Ethan sat back down, still holding his pistol, but now staring at her sleeping form. The way her body glowed slightly in the dark like starlight trapped under skin. The room was quiet except for the wind outside and the soft hum of the heater. As hours passed, the storm grew worse, but inside the small shelter, it felt like something warmer had entered. Not just another refugee, not just another alien. There was something different about her. At midnight, Ethan checked on her again. He noticed her skin was hotter than before, almost feverish. He touched her forehead and quickly pulled his hand back. It was burning like she was on fire from the inside. He whispered, "Kilara." She didn't wake, but her body twitched. Her breathing grew louder, and a soft, humming sound came from her chest, like a vibration deep inside her bones. Suddenly, the implant scar near her neck glowed red for a moment, then faded. Ethan stared, shocked. He scanned her with a handheld device and found something odd. Her biology was changing rapidly, cell activity 10 times faster than normal. Something was happening inside her body, but she looked peaceful, her face calm, her lips slightly parted like someone dreaming. Something far away and painful. Ethan didn't know what to do. He could call the central dome, but if she was wanted, they would come and take her. Maybe worse, maybe dissect her or sell her to someone powerful, someone dangerous. He sat there the entire night watching over a stranger who had fallen at his doorstep and who now glowed softly like a sleeping sun. When dawn finally came and the storm settled, Kara opened her eyes again. She blinked slowly, her silver eyes now looking deeper into Ethan, like she remembered something. Like she saw him not just as a savior, but something more. She whispered again, "Thank you, human," but her voice was different this time. It had a tone Ethan didn't understand, soft, warm, and full of something ancient and urgent. He stood silent, wondering what he had led into his home. And outside, far away on the rocks above the hill, something watched through a scope, its red sensor blinking twice before vanishing into the shadows. The hunt had already begun. Her body is changing. The next morning the air was still heavy from the storm outside, but inside Ethan's outpost everything was too quiet. He sat by the window looking out across the red plains, his coffee untouched, his eyes still drawn back to the girl sleeping in the other room. Kara hadn't moved much during the night, but her body kept giving off a strange glow, not just light but also warmth, like she was made of slow burning fire. And now the glow was stronger. Her skin seemed to shimmer as if something under it was waking up. Ethan checked her again carefully. Her pulse had slowed, but her temperature was still high, too high for a normal being, yet she wasn't sweating or panicking. In fact, she looked calm, like her body knew this was natural. Even if he didn't, he sat beside her and waited until her eyes opened slowly and met his. She didn't flinch or act afraid. Instead, she looked at him with a tired smile and said softly, "It has started." Ethan asked, "Ked, what started?" She sat up slowly, wrapping the blanket tighter around her thin frame, her skin glowing like soft moonlight. She looked down and said, "My body, it's entering cycle. I didn't think it would happen now, not after all the running, not after all the fear, but it has started early." He didn't understand. He asked, "What cycle? What does that mean?" Kiara looked at him, her voice a little shaky. "It's a part of my kind, something that happens once in many years. We enter a state where our instincts take control. We become driven by biology, by need to bond, to mate. But it is not just physical, it changes everything, our thoughts, our bodies, even our scent." And leaned back, unsure how to respond. She was telling him something very personal, something serious and dangerous. She continued, "I thought I could control it. I thought if I stayed far away from others, it would not begin. But your kindness, your presence, it triggered the change." Ethan looked at her carefully, his voice low and steady. "Are you saying this is because of me?" Kiara nodded slowly, but her eyes were soft, not blaming him but afraid of herself. He asked, "What happens now?" She answered, "I will become more sensitive, more drawn to you. My body will seek your warmth. My mind may lose control. I don't want to hurt you. I don't want to become something wild." Ethan stood up, his hands in his pockets, thinking deeply. Then he said, "You won't hurt me. We'll get through this together, but you must tell me everything. No more hiding." She looked at him like she didn't expect that answer, not from a human, not from anyone. Then she said, "I was bred to be a companion for nobles in the Vexari system. Our species was changed through generations to become more desirable. During cycle, some of us lose control, and some of us bond so deeply that we forget who we were before Ethan bombed. Asked, and which one are you, Kara? Looked away. Her voice quiet, I don't know, I've never bonded before. Later that day, Ethan helped her walk around the small outpost. He gave her light meal and herbal tea to help cool her body. She moved slowly, her breath sometimes fast, her hands shaking like she was fighting something inside herself. Her eyes kept returning to Ethan like a magnet, like gravity itself was pulling her toward him. That evening he gave her a soft bed in the room with better airflow and stayed outside the door in case she needed space, but she called out to him before he left, stay close, I feel safer when you're near. He slept on the floor her door and listened to her breathing. It came in waves, sometimes sharp, sometimes peaceful, like a storm trying to settle. At midnight, Ethan woke to a strange sound, a soft thump against the wall. He rushed inside and saw Kara standing in front of the mirror, her body glowing brighter now, her eyes wide and glowing blue, her voice barely a whisper. Something's wrong, I can't stop the heat, it's too strong. She fell to her knees, her body shaking, and Ethan caught her before she hit the floor. He held her in his arms, feeling her skin hot like fire, but her face was wet with tears. I don't want this, she cried. I want to stay myself. I don't want to be ruled by instinct. Ethan whispered, you're stronger than this. I believe in you. She looked up at him, her face inches from his, her lips parted like she wanted to speak again, but no words came, only silence and warmth and a connection he couldn't explain. But then suddenly the tracker on her neck glowed red again, this time brighter. Ethan's scanner beeped with a new signal. Something was locking onto her position. Something was coming fast from the skies above. Kara's eyes widened in. She said only two words, they're coming. The hunter approaches. The wind outside was calm, but Ethan's heart was not. His scanner kept flashing red as he looked at the signal approaching fast from the northern sky. It was sharp, steady, and too clean to be wild. This was a ship, not weather. Not some beast, but someone tracking Calera with purpose. She sat beside him on the floor, her glowing skin now dimmer, but her body trembling more. She knew what was coming, and her voice was no longer calm. He asked, who are they? Calera, tell me now. She looked at him, her lips pressed tight for a moment before she finally said, they call him the Collector. He is not part of any government. He is not bound by law. He buys those, like me. He takes females during their cycle, keeps them locked until they bond, then sells them as breeders. Ethan's jaw clenched. He had seen slavery during the war, but not like this, not with science used to twist biology into chains. Kyra continued, I escaped from his ship months ago. He branded me, tagged me like a bomb product. I removed the tracker, but it must have stayed partially active when my cycle began. Again it reactivated. Now he's found me again. Ethan stood and grabbed his weapon, an old pulse rifle from his military days. He hadn't used it in years, but the charge still worked. He checked the traps around the outpost. Simple but effective, if placed right. You're not going back with him, he said flatly. Kara touched his arm, her fingers cold despite her fevered body. If you try to fight him, you'll die. His Guards are machines trained to track and capture, not to reason. Ethan stared at her. If I leave you, he wins. If I fight and lose, at least I tried. She looked at him for a long time, then nodded, her body still glowing softly like a dying ember in the night. The scanner blinked again, closer now, just outside the range of the northern ridge. Ethan moved fast, setting up heat traps and motion sensors across the front of the outpost. He guided Kara into the cellar, a small underground space meant for storage, now a shelter. He gave her a comm to stay in contact and whispered, "Stay hidden until I call you." Kara reached up and touched his cheek, a strange gesture, something almost ancient in her culture. She said softly, "I hope you return human, because my instincts are starting to see you not just as protector but something else." He gave a small nod but said nothing and went back up as the sky above the ridge lit with pale blue lights. The ship descended silently, sleek and shaped like a stingray with arms that hovered without thrusters. Ethan watched through the scope as a ramp lowered and figures stepped out, not soldiers, not organics, but machines, tall four-legged scanners, built for the hunt, their eyes glowing red. Sweeping the ground behind them walked a being in a long black coat with metal rings floating behind him. A mask covered his face, but his voice echoed from small speakers, cruel and clear. "She is here, I know it. Her heat signature is all over the dust. Her out or burn." Ethan stepped from behind the wall and shouted, "Not here, not anymore." The collector turned slowly, his voice calm. "Oh, you again, a human with a savior complex. How precious." Ethan raised his rifle. Not another step. The drone surged forward but hit a mine Ethan had planted earlier. Burst of heat and sound filled the area, sending metal limbs flying. The second drone jumped sideways, but Ethan was already rolling into cover, firing controlled bursts that cracked its sensors. The third drone circled wide, flanking fast, but Kara saw it from the cellar camera and shouted through the comm, "It's behind you." Ethan spun just in time, catching it with a stun shot to the leg joint. It fell and twitched, sparks flying. The collector did not flinch. Instead, he floated forward slowly, his coat untouched by the dust. "You can't stop the cycle, boy. She will bond soon, and when she does, she'll need someone worthy, someone strong, someone like me." Ethan laughed bitterly, hiding behind a crate. "Maybe she'll choose someone who sees her as more than a tool." The collector raised his arm and a pulse wave slammed into Ethan's shelter, blowing the front wall apart. Ethan flew back, landing hard but still breathing, his weapon cracked but still working. He coughed, stood and shouted again, "She's not for sale. She's not yours." The collector aimed his own weapon at the ground, ready to end it, when suddenly Kara appeared behind him, glowing brightly, her voice ringing like metal. "I am not a thing. I am not yours, and I will never return to the cage." Before the collector could turn, Kara released a pulse of raw heat from her hands, the ground around her cracking with force. Ethan dove behind a wall as energy filled the air. When he looked up, the collector was down, his mask cracked, his drones offline. Kara stood above him, shaking but not from fear, her voice soft but deadly. "I remember now who I am, and I choose no one who cages others." She collapsed right after her body falling into Ethan's arms, her glow flickering like a candle fighting the wind. He held her close, whispering, Over and over, it's over, it's over. I've got you, but deep in the shadows of the ridge, a silent signal blinked from the collector's broken mask, broadcasting one final message. Someone else was listening. The first fight. Ethan sat on the floor with Clara in his arms, her skin cold, her glow fading. She was breathing, but just barely, her energy almost gone. After releasing that pulse, the collector lay unconscious nearby, his mask shattered, his coat burned. The drones around him were all broken, silent sparks rising into the air like dying fireflies. Ethan pulled Kara closer, wrapped her in his coat and whispered, "Stay with me, you did good, you're safe now." But she didn't reply. Her eyes were closed and her body twitched once, like something inside her was still fighting. Something wild, something that hadn't finished yet. He lifted her gently and carried her down into the cellar. It was cooler and dark. The place had thick walls meant to block radiation and heat. Maybe it could also hold back the fire inside her. He laid her on a soft cot, checked her pulse again. It was slow, too slow. He grabbed the emergency medkit and gave her oxygen, tried a cooling gel on her skin. It hissed like steam on hot metal. Her eyes opened just a little. She looked at him through tears and said, "I almost lost control." He wiped her face and said, "You didn't. You chose to save me. You chose yourself." She shook her head slowly. "You don't understand my cycle. It's not done. That was only the beginning." Ethan frowned. "How long does it last?" She looked scared. "Days, maybe weeks. I don't know. I've never felt it this strong before. It's changing me faster than it should. Maybe because I bonded too close to you. Maybe because I feel things I've never felt before." Ethan stood up, ran his hands through his hair, thinking. Then he said, "All right, then we deal with it day by day together." Bakara's face changed. Her eyes wide again, not from fear this time, but warning. She whispered, "Behind you." Ethan spun around just as something large slammed into the wall. The entire outpost shook, dust falling from the ceiling. Another drone, not a small one. Not a scout, but a beast built for capture and punishment. 7 tall claws like razors, forearms moving like snakes. It roared with a mechanical screech. Kiara screamed. Ethan grabbed his rifle, aimed and fired. The shots hit the creature's chest, but barely slowed it. It charged at him, smashing crates to dust. Ethan rolled to the side, took cover behind a steel beam, fired again, aiming for the joints. Kilara tried to stand, but her legs gave out. She crawled toward the backup generator, pressed a button, and the lights flickered, turning red. "Alert mode," she whispered. "He needs light. He needs heat. He's slower in heat." Ethan heard the hum of the generator rise, and soon steam vents released bursts of warm air. The room filled with haze. The drone paused, sensors blinking, trying to adjust to the sudden change. Ethan used the moment, dashed forward and slid under the machine, fired into its belly, then stabbed it with a plasma blade. It shrieked, sparks flying, but one of its arms grabbed his leg and threw him hard into the wall. He groaned, tried to stand, blood dripping from his head, but he was still holding the blade. He waited as the drone charged again, and this time he threw the blade straight into its open vent on the chest. The metal hit deep, and with a loud crack, the drone exploded backwards, smoke filling the room. Silence came again, broken only by Ethan's heavy breathing and Kara's soft coughs. He crawled back to her, held her hand and whispered. "It's done." She looked at him weak but smiling and said, "Not yet. Collector is only one voice, others may have heard the signal. We need to run. Ethan, we can't stay here anymore." He helped her sit up, her glow faint but steady. She leaned on him, her body lighter than he remembered, like the energy inside her was being used too fast, like a flame burning all its fuel. At once, they packed only what they needed: water, food, a small scanner, and a cloak to cover her glow. She looked at him before they left the cellar and said, "Once we step outside, I don't know what I'll feel. I don't know if I'll be able to resist the bond." Ethan looked back at her, serious and calm. "Then we don't run from it, we manage it. Together, I'll remind you who you are. Every step of the way." She nodded slowly, her silver eyes shining even. The dim light outside, the sky was clear for now, stars blinking quietly above and the wind soft like it had no more rage left. But as they walked away from the wrecked outpost, neither of them saw the drone head still glowing faintly, its last signal blinking again and again, reaching somewhere far beyond the planet. And in a dark chamber filled with machines and soft growls, a figure leaned forward as the signal reached him, his eyes not red but violet and full of hunger. "Another bond has begun," he whispered, "and this time I will be the one to claim it." She can't hold back anymore. The desert stretched ahead with no sign of life, only red dust and cracked stone. Under a dim sun, Ethan and Kara moved slowly across the flats, her steps weak, his eyes always scanning the horizon. Behind them was smoke where the outpost once stood, and above them silence, like the sky was waiting. Kara was getting worse, her body temperature rising again, her skin glowing brighter with every hour they walked. She tried to hide it under the cloak, but it pulsed through like fire under fabric. Her voice trembled when she spoke, and sometimes her fingers gripped Ethan's arm like she was afraid of herself. They reached a canyon at sunset and found an old cave, a shelter once used by miners long ago. Ethan checked for safety before helping Caloris sit down. She collapsed the moment she touched the ground, her breathing loud, her eyes unfocused. He knelt beside her, gave her water and said, "You need to rest." Her body's pushing too hard. She looked up at him, her eyes now glowing a bright violet, no longer silver. Her voice cracked when she whispered, "Ethan, I can't hold it back anymore." He asked, "What do you feel now?" Kara's lips trembled. "My mind is full of one thing: your scent, your warmth, your presence. It calls me, pulls me. I want to be close, I want a bond, and it scares me because I'm still me, but only barely." Ethan placed a hand on her shoulder, steady and firm. "Then don't fight alone. I'll help you focus. I won't leave you, not now." She leaned into him like her body had waited for that moment for days. Her head rested against his chest, and for a while she stopped shaking, her voice soft. "I feel peace when I touch you." Ethan didn't move, didn't speak. He just held her close, his heartbeat slow and steady, letting her match his rhythm, letting her remember she was not alone. But peace didn't last long. The scanner beeped again, a signal nearby, not strong but strange, not a ship, not a machine, something organic, large, moving fast toward the canyon. Clara sat up quickly, her instincts flaring. Something's coming. It smells like home. But wrong, too strong, too. While Ethan grabbed his rifle and stood at the cave entrance, eyes focused, hand ready. Kara moved beside him despite her pain, her eyes now fierce. They watched as a shape climbed the rocks across from them. Tall, lean, covered in armored skin with long arms and glowing tattoos across the chest. It looked like Kalara but male and older, his voice deep and rough as he called out, "Female, your scent brought me through storms, I tracked it across planets, you have begun the cycle and I will claim you." Kara stepped forward, her cloak falling off, her glow brighter than ever, her voice sharp. "I do not accept you, I have chosen no one." The male creature growled, "Then you dishonor our kind." "No. Female refuses." The Kalian aimed his rifle. "Don't come closer." The alien looked at him and laughed a dry sound. "You let a human near you, no wonder your mind is broken." Kara bared her teeth, sound between a hiss and a scream. "Leave now or face the bond breaker's wrath." But the male lunged across the rocks, claws out too fast for a normal fighter. Ethan fired, but the alien dodged, slicing at him with long nails. Ethan blocked with the rifle, but was thrown backward, landing hard on the stone. Kiara screamed and rushed forward, her hands burning with energy. She clashed with the male in a storm of light and fury, their bodies fast, their movements sharp like lightning, dancing over a battlefield. She struck him across the face, but he recovered, grabbed her arm and twisted. She fell, but kicked him in the chest with a burst of heat, sending him sliding across the cave floor. Ethan stood again, his shoulder bleeding, but he didn't stop. He charged forward, tackled the alien, while Kiara burned a seal onto the ground, a mark of her choice, a sign of refusal. The male howled in pain as the mark took hold, his body freezing his limbs. Locking, Kiara walked to him, breathing hard, her body glowing like fire, and said, "I do not belong to instinct. I do not belong to your kind. I choose my own path." The mark burned into the alien's skin, forcing him to retreat, crawling backward, before vanishing into the canyon shadows. Ethan dropped to one knee, exhausted, blood dripping. Rushed to him, placed her hands on his chest, her powers soft now, healing, not burning, her voice full of something new. "You keep saving me even when I lose myself." He looked at her, weak but smiling. "Maybe you're worth saving." She helped him sit and rested her head on his shoulder again, her voice small and tired. "The bond calls me every second now, but for the first time I think I can control it because of you outside." The wind had died inside the cave. Only warmth remained, their breathing slow, their hearts still beating together. But far above them, a dark ship hovered in silence, unseen, its captain watching the canyon below, eyes cold, voice low. "So she rejected the chosen and clung to a human. How interesting. Perhaps it is time I meet them myself." The collector's offer. The cave was quiet, the fire crackled softly, and Kara slept against Ethan, her breathing slow, her skin glowing low like coals after a storm. Ethan stayed awake, his back against the wall, rifle beside him, eyes on the cave entrance. He could still hear the words of that male alien echoing in his mind, and worse, he could still feel that Kara was getting weaker, even after winning. Something was wrong, her cycle was not slowing, her body was trying to bond fully, but she was resisting, and now even rest couldn't stop it. Her skin was hot again, her hands kept reaching for him in her sleep, like she needed his presence to stay in control. Ethan brushed her hair back gently, his fingers trembling slightly as he whispered, "Stay with me, Kara. Don't lose yourself, not yet. Before dawn, the sky outside turned red. Not with sunrise, but with engines. Dark shape moved above the canyon, slow, like a predator landing without sound. The ground rumbled slightly, and Ethan knew someone powerful had arrived. He checked his rifle again and placed collar deeper into the cave under blankets with a cooling gel pack on her chest. She woke slightly, her voice thin. Ethan, something's here, I feel it. Watching me, he nodded and said, I'll handle it, stay hidden. Then he walked out to meet the enemy. The collector stood near his ship, taller than before, cloaked in shadow, surrounded by floating drones, each shaped like spinning blades, ready to strike. He wore a new mask, sleek and golden, his voice soft but sharp like glass cutting through silence. You made quite the scene, human, and you damaged my property. That's costly. Ethan raised his weapon. She's not property, she's not yours. The collector laughed. You think you've won something here? She is in cycle, she is fighting her biology, and you are, what, a soldier with a broken past. You don't understand what she's becoming, and you never will. Ethan stepped closer slowly, not afraid. His voice calm. Then explain it, show me. What makes you think you deserve her more than anyone? The collector tilted his head. She was bred to bond, to follow the strongest mind in range. I collect them, train them, gift them to kings. I give them purpose, and in return they give me loyalty. Kiara was the rarest of them all until she escaped. Her value has increased, not decreased. I can still make use of her if she survives the full cycle. Ethan clenched his jaw. She's not an object, she's a person, and she chooses her own fate. The collector's drones circled Ethan now, glowing red weapons ready, and the masked man took another step forward. You misunderstand me, human. I don't want to kill you. I want to offer you a trade. Give her to me and I'll make you rich. I'll clear your criminal record. I'll give you a place in my command. Ethan lowered his weapon for just a moment, his voice flat. I've already had command. I gave it up because people like you ruin everything you touch. The collector's tone darkened. Then you leave me no choice. The drones rushed forward. Ethan fired quickly, hitting one in the core, but the others dodged, slicing the air. He rolled behind a rock, reloaded and fired again, knocking down two more. One got close, but a burst of energy slammed it into the wall. Kiara had stood up at the cave entrance, her body glowing bright, her eyes fully violet now. She looked like a goddess made of heat and fire. The collector paused, watching her with greedy eyes. Beautiful, so beautiful and wasted on a world like this. Calera stepped forward, unsteady but fierce, her voice strong. You will not take me. I am not for sale. I am not yours to gift. I choose him. Ethan shouted, stay back. But she raised her hand and whispered, I'm done. Hiding, her power surged around her. Air rippled like a wave of heat, her body shaking as the cycle tried to complete, tried to lock her into bonding permanently, but instead of giving in, she reached for Ethan and held his hand. Her energy calmed, her glow turned gold instead of red. The collector growled, impossible. No one controls it once it begins. Not without my guidance. Ethan looked into Kiara's eyes, then stepped in front of her protectively. He said then, maybe you were never needed. Maybe they were just waiting for someone who saw them as more than tools. The collector screamed and raised his hand to strike. But Kiara moved faster, her hand cutting Through the air, a pulse shot forward, like a thunderclap hitting him square. The chest, his drones shattered from the shock, and the collector fell to one knee. Mask cracked again, this time the damage went deeper. He looked up with one eye visible behind the crack and said, "You made her dangerous, you'll regret this." Human, then he vanished in a flash of light, teleporting back to his ship, which rose into the sky and fled without another word. Kara dropped to her knees, breathing hard, her hands trembling, but her voice soft. "Ethan, I felt it. The bond tried to claim me, but I chose you. And it changed something." Ethan knelt beside her and said, "Then maybe it's not the bond that matters, maybe it's the choice." Behind them, the cave was quiet again. Ahead of them lay endless red plains and a future neither of them understood, but both had earned. And far above on a dark moon, the collector stood before a council of shadows, his mask now fully removed, his face scarred and bitter. He whispered, "She has chosen the human. But the cycle is not over, the bond beyond biology." The desert wind moved slow across the plains like it was holding its breath, waiting for something to break the silence. Kara and Ethan sat by a quiet stream, near the edge of a canyon. Days had passed since the collector fled, but peace still felt distant, like a dream not yet earned. Kiara's body no longer glowed violently. Her heat had lowered. Her skin, cool now, only pulsing gently. With golden lines, she looked like someone healing from the inside, not just her body but her soul too. But there was still one question that neither of them asked out loud. Was it truly over? Ethan kept checking the sky, every hour, looking for ships, looking for signals. The scanner said nothing was nearby, but his gut said otherwise. Something still watched, something still waited. Kara sat by the water, her reflection shimmering, her eyes slowly turning silver again, the violet fading. But she knew the bond was still there, deep in her bones, just quiet now, resting but not gone. She turned to Ethan and said softly, "I don't feel the fire anymore, not like before." He looked at her carefully and asked, "Does that mean it's finished?" She shook her head slowly. "No, it means I'm in control now, but it's still inside me. Like a promise, like a thread tied to you, and I don't know if it will ever fade." He walked to her, knelt down and took her hand. "Then maybe it's not something to fear, maybe it's something we shape together." Kiara blinked, surprised not by the words but by how they calmed her. Her hand curled into his like it belonged there, like it always had. But far away, deep under the red sands, a machine woke from sleep, a backup drone buried long ago, connected to the collector's signal. It rose slowly, its eyes blinking blue, not red. This one was different, not built to capture, not built to kill. This one was made to speak. It reached the canyon, silently walked toward the stream and stopped at the edge. Ethan stood first, weapon ready, but Kiara held his arm gently. "Wait, I know this one. It's from the old world before the collector took power. They used to be messengers." The drone's voice was soft and clear, its words spoken in perfect Vexari tongue, then translated in human language. "The cycle has entered final phase. Subject, Kara must make choice permanent or sever." Ethan asked, "What does that mean?" Kara stepped forward, her face calm. "It means I either accept the bond forever or I reject it completely. No middle, no delay. My biology will stabilize only after I choose The drone spoke again. If bond accepted, host will retain strength, memories, and shared instinct. If bond rejected, host will lose heat, cycle, powers, and memory of bonded. Target. Ethan looked at her, his heart quiet but heavy. You'll forget me. She nodded slowly, tears rising in her eyes. Yes, completely. It will be like we never met, and I'll go back to who I was before you. Ethan said nothing for a moment, then smiled a little. You deserve to be free, even if that means forgetting. Mikalara stepped closer, her voice cracking. I don't want to forget you. I don't want to lose this. I don't care what the cycle says. I want to choose you with my mind, not just my body. The drone blinked, then say the words, and the bond will lock forever. She looked into Ethan's eyes, trembling but strong, and said, Ikara, daughter of no one, survivor of the cage, seeker of my own fate, choose this human, by will, not by heat, not by code, not by force. The drone paused, then beeped. Once the bond is complete, a soft golden light spread across her skin, then into Ethan's chest, their hands connected by a glowing thread for just a moment, and then it faded. The air felt lighter, her skin no longer burning, just warm and steady. She fell into his arms, not from weakness but from peace, her body fully hers again. Later they sat by the stream, watching the stars rise above the canyon for the first time. Without fear, Kalara rested her head on Ethan's shoulder and whispered, I can feel everything now, your thoughts, your calm, your stubbornness. It's all in me now, and I don't want it to ever leave. He chuckled softly. I'm sure you'll get tired of my stubbornness soon enough. She smiled but didn't answer, her heart quiet and full above them. No ships came, no signals beeped, no enemies followed. The world turned slowly and let them be, but far beyond the colony, on a dark throne, the collector sat alone, his mask broken, his eyes cold and silent. He watched the last signal fade from his screen and whispered, let them be happy for now. But the next cycle will come, and next time I'll be ready, back on the canyon floor. Kiara looked at Ethan and said, I heard him just now in the wind. Ethan nodded. Then we'll be ready too. And they watched the night together, not as protector and refugee, not as man and alien, but as two souls who had chosen each other against every rule, every instinct, every storm. Forever. The end.